This is just a quick discussion on the topic of tithing. Now, there's a huge debate on whether or not Christians have to tithe based on this New Testament covenant or whatever this stuff is they're talking about. I don't know, but all I can tell you is this. You don't have to tithe to go to heaven, but you do have to tithe to be blessed. Before I get on with the documents and the paychecks in this video, I just want to say one thing, that I didn't start tithing simply because I wanted to reap the benefits of doing it. I started tithing based on this simple concept. I want you to imagine if you built a robot out of just all kinds of parts and materials and just whatever you can think of, and you turned it on. And when you did that, not only did the robot refuse to believe that you were in fact its creator, but it didn't want to listen to a single thing you told it to do. What would you have to do to that robot? That question right there, and the statements you just heard come out of my mouth, are the reason I started tithing. I don't want to be a worthless robot that you pretty much just need to turn off. So, had to throw that in there. And what I have here is the tail end of a document that I had working on for several years. I accidentally lost the last two. This one all the way back to the year 2006. And what it is here is just logged my tithing activities. On this column here you can see how much the check was that I made, and this is how much I tithed. And basically what I want to point out here real quick is just a quick verse. It says, "Honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first fruit of all your increase. So your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will overflow with new wine." Now, one of the things that I want to point out here on this document is the fact that you'll see a huge spike in the tithes. It goes from like $40 and $15 and $25 to $170, $236, $84, $200. And basically what you're seeing here is opportunities began to arise. And opportunities began to spring up to such an extent that I had to turn down jobs. I've never experienced that before in my life, where I had this aggravating feeling of a good employer calling me up, wanting me to go to work, and I had to tell them, no, I'm too busy. So things were literally picking up tremendously. And just a quick observation here, some documented proof of what I used to make back in the days. There's 2011. That's a $552 check. That's the net pay. See one here for $456, $335. Really lame checks. And I wasn't quite tithing my full 10%. I was just starting to. And then things just kind of picked up. I jumped up to $20 an hour here with this company. A new company had hired me on, and I was able to travel, had a good vehicle for it, and you can see the earnings here for a 2-week period were $1,400. So that's 2011. And coming up here on 2012, things have increased drastically to where I'm now making $800 a week. And what you're not seeing on this check is that I also have health insurance being paid and retirement. So I'm making about $55 an hour at this point, coming from $15 an hour over here. So, and my tithes have also jumped up significantly. I do not tithe at my church because I don't make it there often because of travel and other schedule conflict and things like that. But I do tithe to a Baptist broadcast church. It's a huge church called In Touch Ministries. You really ought to check them out. But basically what we're looking at here is the tithe slips that I get every week. I send them 10% of my net income. So you can see here this week I made $1,200. This week was $1,500 something. $800. $750. Only made $400 that week. $950, $1,450, $1,000. I mean, I only tithed 100, but just so I don't confuse you, again, this means I made $1,000 that week because I tithed 100 bucks. So, another aspect of tithing that people don't recognize is discipline. Now, from a computer programmer perspective, discipline could be considered an object that trains your character to take the steps needed to do things that you need to do. Discipline does not procrastinate and does not disobey obligation of any form, no matter how small it is. So, essentially, the habit of tithing has not only gave me discipline that I didn't have before to do the things that I need to do, but it has also done just as God has said in His promises. You see, before I started tithing, I never did this type of thing. Now I write down everything that I need to do and what has to get done. And this is part of discipline right here. I attribute this to tithing. And now that I write things down and the date that I wrote them down and the date that they are completed and all that, things get finished. But just be careful of where you tithe, because this place I know is a good place, a reputable place. You're not just supposed to go out and just give your money away to the first bum you see who's got a sign. That's just not how it works. So, unfortunately, I don't have all the documentation, but I just wanted to put together a quick clip on that subject to answer that question. Who people are making this huge debate of whether or not you have to tithe. And my answer to that to you is no. You do not have to tithe. If you want to make 200 bucks a week, then you keep on not tithing. But as for me, I'm just going to hang out right here with my tithes, which are pretty exciting these days. I mean, look at these paychecks. $1,053. Yeah, that was a bad week there. Same there. But I mean, pretty incredible. Tremendous increase. And it's all written right here, and I highly advise you look up Bible verses pertaining to tithing, and your vats will overflow with new wine. Believe it, brothers and sisters.